Hello, my name is Susan E. Brown, and I was a resident of Peoria, Illinois. If you take a look over there, there's a small American flag, which is where my final resting place was. I am buried next to my husband, George, and my son, George Jr. But my tale does not start in Peoria, Illinois. I was actually born in Vermont in 1831. There I met my husband and we had 2 children, and we decided to make our way out west. And so we came to a town called Lincoln, Illinois. Who has been to Lincoln, Illinois here? Yes, yes. Named after our great president, who I was so fortunate to live during his presidency. He was a great man. And as we lived in Lincoln, Illinois, we started hearing tales of the river city. The river city called Peoria, Illinois, which at that point had been known for fur trading. But as time went on, it started to modernize and more industry came into the area. So in the 1890s, we decided to move our way up north to Peoria. Unfortunately, in 1897, my husband passed away, leaving me at a widow age of 66. I had 2 choices. I could either fall victim to my grief and despair, or I could make the choice to make a life for myself and my children and make a legacy for myself. I made the second choice, and I started to make some big decisions for me and my children. The same year, 1897, that my husband passed away, also another thing in Peoria started. It was a very, very big deal. Something opened in Peoria. What? Do we have any guesses? Bradley, yes, Bradley University had opened in 1897. Now, here's another pop quiz, because I had quite a few people yell that out to me. Who started Bradley University? Anyone know? Lydia Moss Bradley. She was a wonderful woman. I had the fortune of knowing her. And I actually had a lot in common with Lydia Moss Bradley. First, she was born in Indiana, not in Illinois. And by the 1860s, she had lost her husband, Tobias, and her 6 children. She had the same choice that I did, whether it was to fall victim to her grief or to make a legacy for herself. And as you probably know, she also chose to make a legacy for herself. She is the pinnacle of history for Peoria. And she was a great woman. She was one of the first women bankers in the United States, one of the first landowners as a woman in the United States. And in 1902, I made the big decision of being the first person, not even woman, first person to buy land from Lydia Moss Bradley. And that land was right across the street from Bradley University. I had a front row seat to watch that university grow and to welcome women and men. It was a sight to behold, to see all these women supporting each other, walking from class to class with their books and their ankle-length skirts. They were a sisterhood before they knew what a sisterhood was. They supported each other, and they started forming these groups called sororities. They made their own sororities there. They were unique to the Bradley University. And what we discovered was it was very influential to their success, because being a woman in the early 1900s, receiving a college education was not very common. There were not a lot of colleges that were encouraging of it. Being a woman that was born in 1831, I would have never dreamed that that was an option. So it was a great thing to just watch from my window and see what was happening. I passed away in 1932. I was 101 years old. I know I look wonderful for my age. They asked me before I passed away, what was the secret to long life? Well, something I need to tell you about was Peoria. When we were in Peoria, things started booming and becoming modern, and the young people started making their way up. And Peoria was becoming the #1 producer of whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Yes, all right. They had more whiskey distilleries than anyone else in the United States. Some people would think that it was Kentucky or Tennessee. No, Peoria, Illinois. So when they asked me what was the secret to long life, I said I had a drink of my favorite elixir. So after I passed away, they went to my house and they looked for the secret elixir. And after I've told you about Peoria, what do you think that secret elixir was? Whiskey. Yes. So according to me, if you want long life, go home and take a shot tonight of whiskey. So as I passed away, Bradley kept thriving on. Bradley made it through the Great Depression, which was a feat in itself. And Bradley made it through World War II. In 1947, one of Lydia Moss Bradley's great goals was to become nationally recognized. She didn't want to limit education to women or men just from the state. She wanted everyone to know they were going to be welcome here. And so one way that started happening was sororities started joining national sororities. And so the sorority of Delta Kappa, which was the original sorority in Bradley, was the first one to make this shift. And they joined Chi Omega, which was the national sorority. And they had their own chapter called Mu Delta. And they were the 99th chapter of Chi Omega, which means they had the bragging rights to be in the first 100, which is just barely made it. But they became so large after they joined that national sorority, they grew out of their tiny house on campus. So what did they need to do? They needed to go house shopping. Well, my granddaughter at that point had lived in my house and she was ready to part with it. And she decided that it would honor my legacy by selling the house to the Chi Omegas. And so now to this day on Tobias and Bradley, you can see my house, but instead there are Chi Omega letters. There's the owl and the skull and crossbones as their symbol. I've been told they did not keep my decorating. That's fine. I'm not insulted. And they, however, are also filling that house with love and support like I was doing with my family. The women there have supported each other. 26 are able to live there every year and they fill it up every year. And one of the greatest things is all the good they do for the community. Their philanthropic ways have become something to be proud of. They support the Make-A-Wish Foundation as well as Susan G. Komen. And if you know Peoria, Illinois, that is something that we hold near and dear to our hearts. I am a small piece of the puzzle that is Peoria history, especially Bradley history. People like Lydia Moss Bradley have a very large piece. If you want to visit Lydia Moss Bradley, she's about 2 circles over. She is also buried in Springdale Cemetery. However, I am proud to know that the house I built has become a large part of that history and that is filled with the love and support that I planned for my family. And now it's for a family that was not for blood, but it was through friendship and support. I think Lydia Moss Bradley would also be proud that her idea for Bradley University has followed through and it is still a place of love and support for everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming. Yep, that's it. Your next story is just around that bend over there. You just got to walk that street and just around the corner is your next story. Thank you guys so much.